Chapter 78, Green Devil Hand. This chapter is updated by Novels.pl. Grievances ran deep between Yanwu Commandery and Square Commandery. Warriors of both places were natural enemies and held grudges. While Zhang Yuochen and Ziqian went on their killing spree of warriors from Square Commandery, warriors of Yanwu Commandery were also being hunted down by those from Square Commandery. Eventually, even other commanderies were involved. At dawn of the second morning, Zhang Yuochen and Ziqian found a female body floating in a small creek. The body was naked, covered in bruises, and there were spots of blood on her legs. It was clear that she had suffered inhumane humiliation while she was alive. The fatal wound on her body was on her neck. A small cut had been made on her arteries. Fresh blood continuously flowed out, dyeing the creek red. The air held the scent of blood. Such a brutal way to kill someone. Zhang Yuochen pulled his brows together tightly, feeling anger ignite in his chest. He waded into the small creek and carried the body onto the shore. He also recognized this female. She was the daughter of one of the elite families in Yanwu Commandery. Her cultivation had reached the mid-stage of the Black Realm and was highly talented. It was likely that she would have made it through the examination. Ziqian had long become used to murder and said, "This style of killing should be that of the prodigy of the King family from Square Commandery." Also, there are definitely remnants of his scent. Zhang Yuochen was not familiar with the warriors of Square Commandery and so asked, "Who are you talking about?" "King Yu. He is considered the most outstanding prodigy of the King family in the last 100 years. At age 15, he reached the completion of the Yellow Realm. At 16, he became a warrior of the Yellow Board, and at 17, he broke into the Black Realm. And now, he is only 21 and has already reached the dawn state of the Black Realm." Ziqian continued, "Rumor has it, he has cultivated a dark power that can absorb the genuine qi from women's bodies. That is why his cultivation increases so quickly." Zhang Yuochen closed the woman's eyes and buried the body near the creek. "There are only 3 warriors from Square Commandery who have reached the dawn state of the Black Realm. I can't believe we would meet another one so quickly." Ziqian asked, "Do you want to kill him?" Zhang Yuochen replied, "Don't you? You should know that King Yu is not the same as Feng Zi. He'll be difficult to defeat." Ziqian continued, "Although Feng Zi was a prodigy, he is miles worse than King Yu. King Yu's cultivation has reached the peak of the dawn state. Even warriors of the medium state of the Black Realm are not his equal. Feng Zi had just broken through the dawn state, while King Yu had already reached the peak. The difference between the two was not usual." Zhang Yuochen looked serious. He looked around and said, "Danger is coming close." Ziqian's ears twitched and her face changed. She drew her sword immediately and adopted a defensive pose. Staring into the forest, she said, "We've been ambushed." "Ha ha. You are very aware. I didn't expect you to discover it so quickly." A clear laugh rang out. Swish. Prince Huoxing flew out on the back of an inferior class level 2 savage beast, a green-shelled eagle, circling above Zhang Yuochen and Ziqian. He stood arrogantly on the back of the green-shelled eagle, staring down at the 2 people below and said, "You two are quite incredible. There were at least 15 warriors of Square Commandery that died at your hands last night, right?" Zhang Yuochen raised his head slightly to glance at him and asked, "How did you find us?" Tap tap. Footsteps rang out. From the forest, out walked a man with a cold face. Wearing a red robe and holding a foot-long, curved machete, he laughed coldly and said, "Once we found the first person you killed, do you think it would be difficult to catch up to you?" "Ha ha." Ziqian stared at the man in the red robe, and her eyes darkened. "King Yu." King Yu's mouth curved up slightly. His gaze slid up her body before landing on her beautiful face. He leered and said, "What an exquisite specimen with a high cultivation. If I can absorb the genuine qi in your body, perhaps I can break through to the medium state." Ziqian's gaze chilled and said coldly, "Since you've already laid an ambush, then show yourself, everyone." Swish. From the forest, there was a chain of rustling. In a flash, another 7 streaks of human shadows flew out. Among them, 3 were at the mid-stage of the Black Realm, and 4 at the initial stage. The 7 young warriors all stood at different positions. blocking all of Zhang Yuochen and Ziqian's escape routes. Prince Huoxing stood on the back of the green-shelled eagle and laughed. "Why don't you break the killing ball? Do you think you still have a chance to live?" Zhang Yuochen immediately sent out his space domain, sweeping his eyes across the 9 people present. His heart sank a little. King Yu's fighting force itself was more powerful than both Zhang Yuochen and Ziqian combined. It would be as difficult as climbing to the heavens if they wanted to defeat him. Not to mention that Prince Huoxing, who was circling in the sky, was more or less as powerful as King Yu. He could strike at Zhang Yuochen and Ziqian any time and send them scrambling. Other than that, there were another 7 Black Realm warriors who had already blocked Zhang Yuochen and Ziqian's escape routes. They did not even have a way to escape. Prince Huoxing laughed. "Even if you did break the killing ball and send up the killing smoke, no one will come to save you. The external student guard of this section is a young prodigy of Square Commandery. I have already had a chat with him, and so even if he does see killing smoke, he will not come." Zhang Yuochen said, "Prince Huoxing has thought of everything. I guess we must die today." King Yu's gaze became lecherous. Shaking his head and smiling, he said, "No, Your Majesty, only you will die without a doubt. As for that beauty in purple, it would be a shame to kill her." Ha ha. A mid-stage warrior nearby leered and smiled, saying, "Mr. King, after absorbing her genuine chi, you must let us brothers have some fun." "How dare you!" Ziqian turned into a deadly purple shadow. Moving at 40 meters per second, she charged with her sword towards the mid-stage warrior. Be mindful, a normal initial stage warrior could only reach 36 meters per second. Only warriors of the medium state could erupt to the speed of 40 meters per second. It could be said that Ziqian was truly angry. She demonstrated her fastest speed and aimed to kill the warrior with one strike. King Yu huffed coldly. He moved even faster, reaching 44 meters per second, surpassing the speed of a warrior in the final state of the Black Realm. He was like a ghost appearing before Ziqian. He extended a green hand. His palm was covered with green scales, grown as if it was the claw of a savage beast. Clap. King Yu's hand claw was as strong as iron, clashing against Ziqian's sword and sent up a giant shower of sparks. Boom. King Yu closed his fingers and caught hold of Ziqian's sword barehanded. Ziqian's countenance changed and tried to pull back the sword immediately, but King Yu's fingers were like iron and held tight to the sword. No matter how much strength Ziqian exerted, she could not move his claw. Green Devil Hand. Ziqian called. King Yu laughed. "You're right. It is indeed the low-class spiritual martial technique Green Devil Hand. I have already practiced this and have a little success. Swords will not pass, and flames will not melt." Ziqian immediately gave up her sword and pulled back. King Yu moved even faster. Stretching out his hand, he tried to grab her neck. A green shadow of his hand appeared in the air, striking together towards Ziqian's neck. A breath of poisonous wind spread out from King Yu's hand claw. It gave off a slight stench of blood. Ziqian bent and dodged King Yu's claw. Her hands hit the ground and a pair of long legs kicked out, landing a blow on King Yu's chest. Boom. King Yu took the kick from Ziqian and retreated 3 steps back. However, he was not injured. Rather, he gave a crazy laugh, ran his tongue across his lips, and said, "How interesting." Ziqian immediately picked up her sword and began to circulate the genuine chi in her body, triggering the 8 lines of inscription in the sword. The surface of the sword began to glow with a pale light and gave off a bone-chilling aura. Strong wind and flying snow. Ziqian's arms moved continuously, her sword drawing circles in the air and creating a strong wind. An endless stream of cold air spread from the sword. There were particles of frost appearing in the air. The particles of frost continued to grow bigger, merging into flakes of snow. Spiritual stage sword technique. King Yu's eyes became very grim and yelled loudly, "Green Devil Hand." King Yu became a green shadow, flying as straight as an arrow towards Ziqian's sword circle. With a bang, the Green Devil's hand suddenly attacked the tip of the sword, emitting a gust of chi below. Ziqian let out a muffled yell. Her sword flew from her hand, falling into a small creek. Boom. King Yu's strike landed on Ziqian's right shoulder, sending Ziqian flying over 10 meters away. In midair, She spat out a mouthful of blood and her face turned very pale. She had taken heavy internal damage. Ha ha. King Yu opened his mouth and laughed, and once again rushed forward. He grabbed Ziqian's ankle with one hand, wanting to trap her. At this moment, Zhang Yuochen appeared in a flash from behind Ziqian. Wielding the flash-shining sword, he struck towards King Yu's globula sacred breaking plum sword. King Yu sensed the danger and immediately released Ziqian's ankle. With a light smile on his face, he extended his hand to block the sword in Zhang Yuochen's hand. Suddenly, Zhang Yuochen changed his strike, switching from piercing to chopping, calling out loud, "Sacred guiding sword!" A streak of sword breath, 10 meters long, flew out from the sword. In a flash, it was chopping towards King Yu. King Yu's eyes narrowed, immediately holding out both hands. He concentrated all his genuine chi on his palms. A green ball of genuine chi gathered between his hands. Green Devil's Cry. He sent out the green ball of genuine chi and created in front of him a green fog. Clashing with the streak of sword breath, Zhang Yuochen felt a great wave of power coming towards him and immediately held up his sword to block it, but still flew out 7 meters from the powerful hit.